Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the North Phoenix Chamber of Commerce candidate interviews for the 2022 general election coming up here in November. I am blessed and grateful today to spend some time with Senator Nancy Barto. Hello, Senator. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Tom. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Yep, it's my pleasure to spend some time with you today. So you are running for District 4 Senate position currently. And I've been asking the same four questions of all the candidates, so I'm just going to run right back down through these. This is all strictly from a business perspective, and the intent of these conversations that you and I are having today are to help educate the business community and give them an opportunity to make informed decisions about the candidates that are on the ballot this year. So I'd like to start out just by asking what differentiates you from your opponent from a business perspective, if you can share that.
Sure. Well, I think one of our biggest differences is in how we view taxes and regulations, which, it's a pretty important deal when you're talking about how you grow a state and ensure its prosperity in the future. She has voted to block all of the tax reforms that we've passed over the last couple of years that have lowered taxes for all parties, including small businesses, property taxes that have affected um, especially especially the small businesses because of the tax shifts. So I can give you those bill numbers. You probably have them etched in your mind because that's a huge issue. But Senate Bills 1827 and 1828, and then um, the alternative income tax rate. She voted against that, Senate Bill 1783. And then she's voted to increase taxes, increase our Maricopa County transportation tax. She supports raising the fuel tax, which is pretty incredible considering where we are now with our fuel prices.
Mhm.
But all of that is on the website that we've put up to kind of let the public know what my opponent stands for on drainthemarsh.org. We think it's pretty important, and I appreciate your focus on this issue as well. On the regulation side, I brought up just one or two examples here on what she's opposed in terms of making sure that citizens have an opportunity to challenge government agencies that are overregulating them. We've really put in a great system, a new system where citizens or small businesses don't have to go to court to challenge an agency that might be taking out of context their authority, their statutory authority. They can go to GERC, the Governor's Regulatory Review Council now, and bring that to light and make a change without having necessarily a statutory change, or it might highlight the need for one. So she voted against that. That's Senate Bills 2759 and 1063. So those are, she doesn't seem to have the same view or understanding of the connection between high taxes and the ability for a state to prosper. I think, under our current leadership, we've done an incredible job recovering from the Great Recession in 2008, and that's emblematic of the almost $5 billion surplus that we had in order to continue to add funding to our public education system,
Right.
really step up our infrastructure spending and keep up with the growth in the state, raise employee rates at the state level in order to improve services. Just a number of things that are so key. Put $1 billion into our water future,
Mhm.
pay off debt and our rollovers, pay off our state buildings that we that we had to sell during the recession.
Right.
I mean, all of those things are they make a lot of sense to me and to, I think, a lot of people, and that's why I think you've seen support for Governor Ducey, and before him, Governor Brewer, who understood the connection between keeping really important tax reforms front and center, and watching out for regulations that that only serve maybe to squeeze out their competition rather than to serve the public.
Right. Do you have any legislative plans to that effect that you would like to impact, that you think impact businesses within your district or within the state, obviously, within this next session? Do you have anything that you're interested in? Any bills you're interested in running possibly, or repealing any old legislation? Is there something in the way you think for businesses that we need to keep an eye on this coming session?
Well, you know, I don't think you can really talk about next session without kind of talking about the whole picture of what's impacting businesses and the open border, community safety.
Right.
Those types of things are front and center in my mind, because and I can just kind of go into why I think that's important. We are seeing rising crime due to the open border, and the anti-police attitude that is impacting the numbers. I mean, we've got over 1,000 officer shortage in the city of Phoenix.
Yep.
And they're retiring, continuing to retire. They just don't want to work in an environment where they're not respected. And this is impacting all of us. It's even impacting smaller cities like Scottsdale. They're 35 down, and crime is up. Violent crime is up. So, you know, my focus is on several ways to handle that. Keeping communities safe entails putting more resources at the border. My opponent fought that. She's actually for open borders, and some of her votes reflect that. That's also on the website we've put up on Drain the Marsh. But there are lots of things that we can do in addition to, you know, calling the border situation an invasion, and gathering more federal resources as a result of that, putting more state resources into the border, holding cities accountable and not allowing them to become sanctuary cities, things like that. I think another aspect of this is in ensuring more community safety is attacking homelessness. Every municipality is now being affected because of the failing policies we've had going on. We're spending billions every year, a lot of federal monies, in doing the same thing over and over again, and as they say, expecting a different result.
Right.
I've been working hard in the aspect of really holding municipalities accountable for that money, and making sure that they have outcomes that are reflective of that spend. You can't just house people and then expect them to be successful.
Right.
So that's one aspect. It was a pretty big lift last session, and we were not successful, but we have to keep at it with somebody like Carrie Lake at the top. I think we'll be successful. But we also have to reform our mental health system. This is low-hanging fruit I've been working on for a long time, because we are really putting a lot of the big problems on the municipalities and police officers, whereas we spend over $3 billion in our mental health system every year, and we don't have the kinds of facilities we need for actually treating those with serious mental illness and keeping them in a secure environment. So I've passed several bills. This session, we were successful in getting $25 million specifically for keeping dangerous individuals with SMI off the streets and into care. We have to do the same thing with recidivism. And as we transition prisoners from DOC and our jails back into society, we have to do that more successfully. And I've fought and sponsored bills that increase the number of prisoners that get into these programs that have been proven to successfully reduce recidivism, and do that from hundreds to now multiple thousands a year. So we have to keep that up. So that's just on those two things. I think that's pretty significant work that needs to continue.
Right.
I think we have to also get a handle on our drug treatment programs that the state contracts with. We tried to do that with my Bill 1467 this year, and that was not successful, but we have to keep at that. We have to hold our drug treatment centers, because there's so much money involved in it. We need to weed out the bad actors and put some accountability measures, outcome measures in place. So those are some specifics.
Okay. Yes, so just hanging a shingle and saying that you're a psych doc is not necessarily appropriate if the outcomes aren't there. You've touched on several things that I think would have an impact on helping the local economy and our economic development, economic growth here in North Phoenix. Do you have any other ideas or plans around helping with the economic growth and getting us through this current cycle that we're in?
Well, I think number one, we have to win this election in order to hold what we've already accomplished in place. We fought hard for good water planning over the years. Water is going to continue to be an issue. And we have to, I'm proud of what the state has been doing over the last few years. I don't think it's time to freak out. But because frankly, we use less water now than we did in 1957 in our state, even with the humongous, well, it's hard to even explain how much growth since that time, 60 years ago. But our conservation efforts, and we've got good plans in place for moving forward. I think we have to really avoid the type of thinking that we have to stop farming, that we have to somehow cease good economic policies in our state that benefit our state and our citizens for the sake of climate change policies that don't make sense. So I will continue to fight that and promote technology that's coming out of our university systems. People have good ideas, and we need to have the attitude that innovation is always going to be coming up the ranks as long as we hold freedom as our foundational principle, and really avoid the kind of anti-competitive type of policies that I think become solutions on the left. And we've got to fight that attitude, like we're somehow going to go extinct unless we all change the way we live and don't have any type of fun. We can't have farming. Look how much of the country benefits from that. So, I mean, just the attitude of watching out for the anti-competitive type of policies that I see looming and that you hear people talk about, scaremongering. We have to avoid that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else? You've covered an awful lot, and you've covered kind of my last question, I think, of why business owners, why the business community should be supporting your campaign. Is there anything else you'd like to add around that question? Is there anything else that you'd like to share about uh, why business owners should consider supporting you?
Well, yeah, I think it's a you can look at my record and you see how I've tried to deal with issues like the short-term rental issue. Um, I fought hard to get a balance there, to make sure that people's property rights are respected and yet deal with the bad acting party house renters. This is doable. And so I think having that type of attitude where you're allowing businesses to flourish, but in a common sense way. I've protected the small guys, the independent pharmacists, from going out of business because of the FDA overregulation. I
Right.
think it's important that people understand kind of the work that legislators do in pushing back against the feds and their penchant for getting in bed with the big actors, big pharma, and big business in general that squeezes out small business that people depend on. When you're talking about independent compounding pharmacies going away, you know how much health care that
Yeah.
would impact people.
There's
These are
about 100, from what I understand, about 100 independent pharmacists in the state,
yeah,
roughly.
yes, and they're really struggling, not
Right.
only from the FDA's they're in their crosshairs,
Mhm.
but the big insurance companies
Yes.
want to put them out of business.
Mhm.
And so I've fought for them, and PBM reform, pharmaceutical benefit manager reform. It's a these don't often make the headlines, and they are the biggest fights in the legislature right now
Wow.
because there's nothing that they want more than to just grab market share and get the little guys competition, get that competition out of their way.
Hmm.
And one size fits all does not. So I
Right.
I will continue to do that on the vaping. I think we still have work to do on that. I think there's a middle
Mhm.
ground to be found there where we don't, if we give the municipalities the ball to fix keeping vapes out of minors' hands, they're just going to tax and regulate them out of business, and we can't let that happen because
Right.
they're a benefit to many that find them as a life-saving alternative to the sticks. So so those types of things, I think that in public safety um, are my record of service. And in healthcare, it's also extends there, fighting for physicians' rights to practice and
Mhm.
coming fighting for health board reform so that they're not over regulating our medical professionals who are just trying to do their job and treat patients. We've got a lot of work to do in that space and
Yep.
fighting even executive overreach. That I stood for that so that we'll never again have businesses shut down by a governor the way we did without legislative input.
Mhm. Good. Good. Fantastic. I can't think of another question I need to ask you right now, Nancy. I appreciate your time today, and I appreciate you sharing with us your perspective on the small business community. You've touched on quite a few hot buttons for our business owners that this is going to resonate well with, I'm sure. So I appreciate your time today.
Great. Well, thank you. If you want to learn more, you can always
Yes.
look at my record at nancybarto.com. There's a
Okay.
lot of information about that because I have been in office for a while, and I hope that I can continue to serve the people in LD4.
Okay. And I will put that URL up on the lower third of our video when we're finished editing it. So
Okay,
I'll have
great.
folks know how to get a hold of you.
All
So
right. Thank you
thank you
so
very
much.
much. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Keep